Hey guys, Joe here. So normally I do like some kind of weekly recap where I was, and then I wasn't really doing it because I was doing it in the car and things like that. But recently, like I started staying at work a little bit later than everyone else. So then I have this kind of like not free time, but like, time to myself and things like that. And so I just want to kind of go over like what's really been going on, right? So overall, I feel like this week has been pretty damn successful. We had some setbacks last week, and because of that, it kind of like it just spurred on another version of myself. And I think that's the biggest thing to kind of take away for a lot of people is that when things happen, there's two ways to react. It's either like there's the whole fight or flight kind of mode, where you can shut down and things like that, or it's really use what's happening as your motivation to get more stuff done. And not that but for me also, it's not like, I think it's easy for people when they're posting content and stuff like that to, say stuff like this, and it's like, oh, like, that's the way I act in every circumstance, but it's just not, right? Because like when it comes to business, just the way I'm wired and just how I am, I can make most situations turn them into something that's going to be a motivation for me. But then when you put that and change it into like when my son's driving me crazy, like it's not. So like I'm not perfect, and that's some things I have to work on. And I think that's something else that most people need to take away is that whoever you look up to, your competitors, whoever it may be, we're all going through our own shit. But I think it's like how we deal with that, and more importantly, like what are we actively trying to do on a very consistent basis to, become better. It's whether it's being a better husband, a father, a business owner, a boss, a leader. Whatever it is, it's all those baby steps, right? And I fully expect that when I look back in another, even just 6 months or a year, the amount that I'm going to grow is going to amaze me that I was just at this level, not too long ago. Whereas I look at the person I am now and what is being accomplished on a daily basis, even up to like, the same period, like, even 3, 4, 6 months ago, it's like night and day difference, right? And like, it didn't happen all at once. It was just small, like, steps. And I think we just have to keep on putting ourselves in a position to have more wins throughout the day. There's the book with Atomic Habits where it talks about the concept of, basically being 1% better every day doesn't lead to a 365% increase. It leads to a 3,700% difference. It's kind of like when my son, that experiment where they say, do you want $1 million or do you want a penny to double every day for 30 days? And, most people say that, $1 million. I don't remember the exact math, but it's way more money to double a penny every day, right? It's that compounding interest and things like that. So there's that. I think overall, from what we're hearing and what I've kind of known, as far as growing a business, going back, I've talked about this a few times in the past, week, but in case you haven't seen it, like there's really with issues in business, like it comes down to 4 things, getting leads, booking jobs, producing the jobs, knowing your numbers. Like that's literally it. Of course, there's subsets in there, but that's for the most part it. So if you start getting, depressed or whatever, and issues within the business, just like which area is it? And then fix that, right? And work on that area, right? So the other thing, and I posted in the, in another video, and I said it was 4 questions. I actually do more questions than that a day. I didn't realize it, right? Because I just started this, and like it's, I didn't know, I didn't remember exactly, and I didn't have it in front of me, but I'll just go through it. But it's something simple, if you can see, right? And so it's basically, what are some good things that happened today? Again, going back to that, because like when I start looking back, I don't know, just random notes, because like you have to remind yourself, like the shit that I go through. Um, I have to keep on reminding myself that like I'm more capable than I know. And I think for me, like there's not much that stops me, and I don't have much of a thought process and things like that, which is kind of good in some ways and bad in others. Um, but it's really going through asking yourself what went well, each week. Now, some of the things like I was able to help another contractor out this week, for issues that he was having. Spoke to another business. Actually, it's been quite a few. And it's weird because like I started trying to do this whole channel because I was in the fence business and I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. I'm like, I'll be a coach because I like that I can do pretty well at. But it never felt right. But now I'm able to do that with this current business, and it allows me to help people without charging anything. And I think it was just because I felt bad because they weren't, because they're in a bad situation. So like asking someone to pay you money when they're in a bad situation and make their situation worse in the short term in order for these long term benefits. I don't know why it didn't sit well with me. But there's that. Trying to think what else. The whole visualization, I think it really is helpful because it gets your brain. It's kind of like that REM, where when you're like whatever service that you sell, like you'll start hearing from the homeowners, or you can even say it to them, with the whole fencing, right? Until they started really thinking about getting a fence, they never noticed a fence, but now they notice all these, different fences. And for me, constantly thinking about what I want and where I want to go and things like that, it's making my brain work towards getting what I want, right? And I think that's where, and I should have left this open, I think this is where like having those questions every day is what actually helps as well. Because if I'm asking myself every night before I go to bed, like, what is the one thing I need to do personally to make the biggest impact on the business tomorrow, right? I might write something down about that. But like when I go to bed and I'm, sleeping and things like that, not actively thinking about that question, my brain and your brain is going to constantly be looking for that answer, right? And then there's going to be things that pop up in my head, and I have to make sure I write that down right away. But I think I really do think it's helpful. I do believe in energy, and like things, they're attracted, and it's like you just kind of put out in the universe what you're looking for, and it just kind of happens, right? Not religious by any means, but there's that. Trying to think what else. There's just been a lot of good stuff happening, and I think I'm gonna like look back in like a few months when like it really starts getting busy and everything else, and I was like, holy shit, like we really put down the groundwork for what's going to happen. But kind of going back to the business, I think number one, and Alex Hormozi talks about this, and I've talked about him numerous times on the channel, but if you have not started listening to Alex Hormozi, you are severely missing out, right? Dude's a genius. Complex ideas into like stick figures, like it's crazy. And one of the things he talks about is how most people are just trying to constantly get one sale after another, and more or less kind of like just doing an average or a mediocre job, right? But what ends up happening is you never get the compounding interest from each customer, right? And where on the flip side, if you literally just think about and implement everything that will make your customers' lives better, from either easier, better, get them it done faster for them, things of that nature, what's going to end up happening is you're going to create an experience so good that they can't help but tell everyone else about it. And that's where you go from that one customer gets you another, that person gets you another, and so forth and so on. So it's like goes from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, and so forth and so on. And, that's something that when I was building the other fence company, in the beginning when it was myself and just my wife, that's what was happening, right? And then as we grew and like everything kind of got diluted, and it's not because we grew that everything got diluted, it's because we grew, the company grew, but I did not, right? And there wasn't the same focus. Like I was trying not to work I was only working 2 to 4 hours a week, and that's what I was trying to, promote through this coaching and stuff like that. Which obviously that's why it didn't resonate with a lot of people. But if I would have put in more of the effort and made the experience even better, it would have just grown substantially, right? And I think that's what we really need to focus on is how can we make our lives, customers' lives better? And like, honestly, that's been the one big change that we did here. Like it's literally all day, every day. It's what I think about. Just how can I help you guys, right? And so that's whether you are a current customer of me or not, like that's fine as well. But if you have any questions, like I'm here to answer them however I can. Typically, 9 times out of 10, like people come in and it's really within about 15 minutes and I don't think it's because I'm smart or anything like that. It's just taking the emotion out of things. But like literally within 15 minutes, like usually I know what the problem is and like how to fix it. But then again, it's because it's all simple, right? It's simple. It's not easy, right? So anyway, so it was a few of the wins this week. So we had, we had our first really big customer that signed on. They put in their first set of orders this week. Several good conversations from the sales rep to the other companies that we're making a big progress on right now. And then of course, we're dealing with the issue with the decking, which I didn't talk about that. We had an issue last week where the decking, we were supposed to get it in, or was that the week before? Week before that, decking was supposed to come in. I probably talked about this, but if I didn't, the decking was supposed to come in by the end of, or by the first week of January. Week of January came through, and they were like, I emailed them like, hey, where's our stuff at? And so they got the rep sent an email and was like, hey, do you have time to talk? And because my GM wants to talk to you, branch manager or whatever. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Figured they were just gonna like delay it or something. But no, they're like, you're, not approved. Like, unfortunately, your credit was never approved and all this other shit. And I'm like, that's not true. Number one, we wanted it to be a cash account. And then number two was $20,000, which is nothing. And number three, I'm like, this is not a credit issue. I'm like, this is like one of 2 suppliers in my area. Like, it's an issue. And more than likely, it's still one supplier because we have a history and they've already done it to me in the past. So funny part is so I was cleaning out my desk, like there's a few papers on there, so I'm cleaning them up, and I actually had an approval letter from this supplier. And before I just put off the side because I'm like, whatever. And normally, actually, I probably would have just thrown it out because it was not really that important, in my opinion. And guess I got to leave after this, but guess what it was? It was actually from the senior credit analyst of that company that said, hey, we went through your credit. You are approved. Congratulations. So I'll leave it at that. So that's what we're dealing with. But it's only going to make me better. So anyway, have a great week, and I'll see you soon.